Well, happy Thanksgiving, ladies and gentlemen. We have the pre-holiday, the pre-Black Friday Pocket Change Market Report. As you can see, November 22nd, 2023. Exciting stuff. Just an overall very fun episode for you guys to take a look at. Even going all the way up to Thanksgiving, we had some pretty strong sales of coins that you could find out in circulation. It can be just about anything. Any sort of mint error or die variety, things that traditionally a lot of folks would overlook. Some of these are being found. Some pretty epic stuff being added to collections. Or the resale market is extremely strong right now on a lot of these coins. We're going to talk about a lot of what you can find here. Another thing that escapes folks' minds is that you could cherry pick some of these coins at local coin shops, at coin shows, and even online, whether that's on Facebook Marketplace, on eBay. We actually had one really awesome cherry pick on this list. A seller sold it for way too little money, and my heart cracked a little bit because I was like, first of all, that sold for too cheap. Number two, where was I when this thing ended? I wanted to throw in my bid to support that particular coin. But yeah, you just never know where you're going to find the deals, and these all can represent the best way to add some big chase pieces, some of those big trophies to your collection, or to resell for massive profits. Of course, we are in the holidays right now. There's nothing official about it. We are simply just in the holidays. We have a good solid 2 to 3 weeks remaining of what I like to consider to be the searching period, that a lot of people are still bringing coins to the bank. They're wrapping up everything that they've pulled out of that cracked piggy bank or that big water jug. They need money for the holidays, wrapped it up, bring it to the bank, and it's a lot of older stuff. We had someone that had commented that they had like a 5-gallon water jug that they've been accumulating for over a decade, of nothing but pennies, and the bank won't take it for whatever reason. So there are also those folks out there that are struggling to get rid of their coin. Of course, it wasn't wrapped or anything. It was just, hey, here you go. Let me go ahead and hand it off to you. But they can't really do anything with that. So what I'm saying is not all sour grapes for sure. There are a lot of people that are depositing this money, and it's a lot of old stuff that probably you and I haven't seen in a while. So it represents a pretty good opportunity to pick through some old inventory, and that's why this time every year is so popular for roll hunting. So a few kind of house cleaning type items to talk about as we go into these coins for the day. We don't talk about graded coins. Graded coins means you actually have to pay a grading company to do the entombment in a plastic case. I mean, don't get me wrong, they look nice, but if you were going to resell a lot of these coins, you don't need to do that. All right, keep the money in your pocket. The coins, if they're attributed correctly by the variety, or if they're diagnosed correctly as an error of a specific type, then you're going to have no problem whatsoever selling it. So keep that in mind. And all of the photos you're going to see here today is 100% original to the seller's listings, which means we didn't juice or doctor any of these to make them look better. You are simply going to get the best and worst photographic images. It's going to give you some insight of what that low bar is, and I'm happy to say that bar is set pretty low, man. So if you could take halfway decent photos with your smartphone or some other device, you should be in good shape here. All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. Again, we're going to be looking at eBay sold activity within the last 24 to 48 hours. So this is very live. This is up to the minute, accurate pricing data on these particular coins. So we have a 1964, as far as we could tell, it's a Philadelphia coin. And this is a little bit off-center, huh? Looks to be about 30% off-center. One glaring thing that you'll see here is that it has a pretty deep scratch on the obverse, which, believe it or not, people do care about. You know, when they're looking at things like this, they do care about those particular things too. So condition still important to error and variety collectors. So you know, let's not dismiss that at all. But this is actually a pretty decent sale for a damaged coin. It ended up selling for $33.98. Also observe the amount of circulation wear on this coin. Like, everybody keeps hating on the fact that none of these can be found in circulation, but look at this thing. This thing has been around the block a few times, ladies and gentlemen, which indicates that it's been through a couple cash registers. It's passed through many hands for it to look like this. You can even see some fingerprints on the reverse there, right underneath the memorial building. So, case in point, yeah, this stuff does circulate out there. Some people just don't care. But yeah, you just never know where you're going to find these. Pretty interesting one. So I saw this one and I was like, wow. All right. Someone, I think, got a steal on this one. It's a 1937D Buffalo nickel, and it really needs no introduction. This is the three-legged buffalo. This is a big one. It's in the Red Book, Cherry Picker's Guide, you name it. And there are people who are not collectors at all that have heard about the famed three-legged buffalo. And here it is. So you'll see that the foreleg on the reverse there on Black Diamond completely polished off. All right, so that's what happened is in an over-abrasion of the die, over-polishing, simply eliminated that front leg. All right. Now, these are counterfeited. I will say that. And some of the things you're going to want to look out for is this very weak hind leg, which this one is. And then also what they call the P-line. It's just a raised textured surface right here that arcs. You're going to make sure that your coin has that. If not, then odds are that it's not going to be a legitimate three-legged buffalo. All those things kind of go hand in hand when you're diagnosing these things, or correctly attributing them, rather. So yeah, I mean, I looked at this, I'm like, wow, that's a really pretty looking coin. You know, it's probably an AU58 grade-wise, and this one ended up selling for $1,030 with 4 bits. All right. And I'm like, why did it sell for too cheap? This thing is like $1,500 to maybe $2,000 easy in AU condition. And the seller is a little bit newer on the platform on eBay, with like a feedback score of like 22 or something like that. So there might have been a little hesitation there with a newer seller selling such a high caliber, high priced item like this. But if it turns out that the transaction goes through as promised, then this is going to be a hell of a purchase. This is one that you could easily... This one I would say you would certainly grade, all right? Especially in this condition. But it's end up being such a big bomb when it enters back into the marketplace. It's going to sell for a lot more than this one did. All right, so here's a not too great looking dollar bill. This is a 1981, a little bit older, but as you can see, this one has had kind of a hard life. It was probably used as a tissue as well when they were blowing their nose. That's how raggedy this thing looks. But again, we don't hate on the coins or the pieces of currency out there that look all rough and rugged and aged like this one does. We have to embrace all of the age that comes with this, because you just never know what you're going to find. When you flip this thing over and you see a partial front to back wet ink transfer like you do here, that's all you need to know. You're like, yep, I saved this one from certain destruction, because after a little while, once a bank gets a hold of this, they're going to pull that note, they're going to put it into a separate container or envelope for paper money that's going to be destroyed at a future date. So, kind of cool. Cool to see this one saved in this state of preservation, and it ended up selling for $39.99. What a great sale, and a great story on saving this one. We have here up next a really pretty looking 1958D Lincoln Wheat Cent, but as you can see, this is repunchment mark number 1. It's a triple D, It's a D over D over D. So I believe TLC Varieties, one of the big variety sellers on eBay, sold this one. They always take great pictures, by the way. The close-up of this particular coin shows a tilted Denver mint mark and a third Denver mint mark that was punched south of the primary. So you have the tilted, and then you also had the southern punched other mint mark on there. So it's 3Ds, that's for sure. Pretty cool. This one, very nice high grade, sold for $49.95. Again, wheat cents of, I would say, the 50s. One of the strongest decades, bar none, to find a ton of different repunch mint marks. If you need like a comprehensive list, go to a website like coppercoins.com or Variety Vista, and you're going to get the whole lowdown of what you could find on some of these dates. Pretty nice one here, 1985 P Jefferson nickel. It's off center by about 50%. Beautiful high grade example like this one here. Will certainly be scooped up. People generally collect these particular errors by date. They'll want one of each date. They'll try and find each mint mark as well. And when one comes along that is just too good to pass up, even if they already have this date, they will certainly, entertain it. This one right here is sold for $40. Great looking piece. Again, very nice high grade on this one. And we also have another one here, at 85 Lincoln Memorial Cent. We don't know what the mint mark is because it's cut off there right at the date. It's a Zinkin planchet. This one right here is off center, I would say, by about 65-70%. Another tougher date. This one sold for $34.99. Again, with these particular coins, I have personally successfully cherry-picked quite a few of these over the years at coin shops and shows. They're dealers. They're kind of indifferent, 50-50 on these type of mint errors, and sometimes they'll throw it out there for cheap. $5-10. You gotta understand, if it has a full readable date, they sell for a lot more than that. So don't be afraid to buy them if you do see them. If they're priced cheap enough, understand that these sell really well online. All right, not the greatest of pictures. I actually had to blow this one up because it was really small on the main page of their listing. 1982 large date, bronze, Lincoln Memorial Cent. This one has a pretty nice size cut die break right above Lincoln's head there on the obverse. It's covering up one of the letters of God, we, and trust. So it's a pretty nice longer cut die break there. So here's a much better close-up photo. Actually, this seller did a really good job at the close-ups. There wasn't a full reverse image. Like I tell you guys, make sure you do that. This one appears to have some carbon spotting on the reverse there, just based on this little portion that we see. And that could be problematic, because if there are bigger carbon spots on the reverse, you'd want to know about that, because if you end up getting this coin and you find that it's nowhere near what was described because of a lack of a picture, then this could ultimately mean a return. And as sellers, we don't want that. We want to minimize the return experience, so that way you could freely spend the money that you make selling these. And this is a great example of a coin that was struck by a die, probably the obverse die, obviously here. A piece of the die had broken and fallen off. Again, this is just due to wear and tear, and it happens. So when it strikes the coins, all the metal flow goes into that empty cavity there and creates a raised area on the coin. Very neat effect here. This one sold for $54.13. Again, cuds are king because the money you make is king on these. The money is just really too good right now on these. Here's the 1979P. It's been a little bit of a minute since we talked about this Susan B. Anthony dollar coin here, but this one is the well-known wide rim design on the obverse of the coin. That's where the rim goes almost up to the numbers of the date. The narrow rim actually sits a lot further than what you see here on this one. And the coin is in phenomenal shape. It's a nice mid-state coin. This one sold for $16.95. Prices on these have remained flat, if not dropped a little bit. Just the interest level is starting to wane on them as people obtain the pieces that they want. And there's always going to be more to come on these. A lot of them were made, and it's kind of like maybe 40-60 as far as the split goes of how many wide rims were produced compared to the narrow rims. One is not a lot more than the other. Here's another neat one. Again, these show up quite frequently in change. It's the 2020 Philadelphia Struck American Samoa Bat Quarter. This one has the what they call the blind bat strike through. All right, that you can see on here. This is one of the smaller ones, but again, very important because it's part of a progression set. And you can see also the scrape lines there in the fields next to the mama bat's face. Those are feeder finger contact marks from the die. All right, so yeah, they call this a field restricted strike through, as its coin terminology is. This one's sold for $37.32. We're still seeing some pretty strong sales on these. The larger, more engulfed strike through that takes over the whole face there, that's still the big one. Those sell for many hundreds of dollars today. Here's a pretty nice, kind of like a dual error, 1988 Lincoln Memorial set. Number one, it's broad struck. All right, so this is all done outside of the collar. And it also has the indent with a partial brockage on there. So there were two coins that were overlapping, and then they struck together. The collar had malfunctioned, and it created this interesting little nugget right here. This one sold for $49.99. And yeah, the coin's not the greatest looking piece, but this is a very nice double error. All right, pretty cool. 1985 $10 bill, and you can see that the black ink portion of the overprint on the left side of the note is all misaligned and shifted, possibly due to some sort of malfunction with the plates or a crack or something to that effect that created this this crazy looking shift right here. But you'll see that the green ink, the serial numbers, they're all perfectly laid out the way that they're supposed to be on here. So this one, ladies and gents, sold for $118.86 with 24 bids. These are very collectible, and sometimes you'll come across these at the show circuit. Maybe not necessarily for a bargain price, but if you do come across one that maybe is like $50-$60, that might be a good reason to buy it, understanding that you'll 2x your money pretty easily. So there's a little bit of the reverse image there. Showing a little bit of wear. I mean, it's a nice solid VF, if anything else. Wow, here's another 1988 Lincoln Memorial. Compared to the previous coin, this one is just a really nice broad strike. It's a little bit off center. You can see the exposed zinc core all throughout this coin because it's a copper-coated zinc planchet. Not my favorite, not anyone's favorite really, but when given the opportunity, either by an off-center strike or a broad strike, that thin copper plating will split, creating this sunburst pattern that you see here. This one sold for $18 with 10 bids. Good-looking piece. And we've seen this one before. This is another cut die break over the word trust there on a 74D. Again, I'm under the belief that a number of these were discovered in a mint bag very recently. And quite a few of these cuts came out of there because there's been a number of them that have sold here in the last 6 months or so. So this is a very well-known shape of a cut die break. We've seen it most of this year. This one sold for $22, and that's with 3 bids. So there was definitely some activity on this. And probably one of the coolest coins of the week is this Lincoln Memorial Cent. It's a bronze or a copper composition that was struck through an earlier state cap die. All right, so we do see a partial kind of like mirrored brockage on this one, which was the original design of the die cap before more strikes occurred, thereby flattening out that that design on there. So This is, again, when you can find one with any sort of brockage that's this clean and, just, it's a really nice shape too, possibly a mid-state red-brown type. This one right here sold for $146.25, 25 total bids. And, that's kind of like the regular amount of money that these sell for. I know it seems kind of high, but these are quite popular in the error community and the coin community too, for anyone that is looking for at least one example of this. Pretty nice little lot here. It did sell for a king's ransom though. This is a lot of 6 1979 Jefferson nickels with the same cud die break on every single one. And they all vary in condition. Now, obviously, you stare at the screen, and we're all going blind right now because there's one coin that received a ton of the light. The white balance is just way off on this photo, but here, let me help you out there. Here's a couple close-ups of the nicer ones. The one in the 2x2 is a really nice, brilliant, uncirculated example. And probably the one down there, bottom right corner of that image, also a very nice lower mid-state version. You can see the luster on there, but pretty cool. Nice little 6-pack, and all 6 ended up selling for $230.25, which comes out to roughly $31. No, not $31, like $39 a piece. Because if it was, let's see, 6 of them, it'd be $240 if they were $40 a piece. So, yeah, right around, I guess, 39, 38 and some change, somewhere around there. So that's a pretty high amount of money that you're buying into for these. Because I had one of these and sold it recently for about $29. So, yeah, if you sold this, do it as a buy it now, so that way you get a little bit more of what you expect, and you're not going to lose money on this lot, because this was a high price to buy these at. But pretty cool to see 6 of the same cud here, all in living color. Really nice. 1982p candy half dollar. I mean, we all know about this one. You gotta look out for the missing FG initials on the reverse. Normally it would be right in this little area here, this little crux between the eagle leg and the tail feathers, and it's not there. All right, again, over polished die area, which obliterated the initials. And this one sold for $10.39. It's as good as finding a 90% silver half dollar. So make sure you're looking out for this. Don't overlook them, and don't toss them aside. Another neat one, man. This we're candy half dollars. When you could find a halfway decent mid error on them, they're very attractive and very, very desirable. 1973 D Kennedy with a nice sized curved sheet clip there. That's taking care of the Y in Liberty. It's almost completely missing there. But yeah, you can even see the Blakesley effect on both sides, but very noticeable on the reverse there, right above United. This one sold for $25.50 with 12 bids. Keep in mind that a similar Washington quarter of the same date with that same size clip probably wouldn't sell for half that. All right, so again, larger coins like Kennedys and Ikes, they tend to sell for a lot more money because of their size. So pretty nice. Here's an undated Roosevelt dime. Roosevelt dime off-center strikes all of a sudden are selling for crazy money. I don't know what it is, but it used to be that you could buy this coin a few months ago for like $15-20. All right, and this one ended up selling for $26.75 with 14 bits. All right, so they have definitely gone up in price. This one has no readable date, so there is that. But it's also a nice shape too. But yeah, all of a sudden, it might just be this time of year where these things kind of have that extra zing, I guess, in the marketplace. But they are cool, and when you do come across one and it's in this nice a shape, you're going to do pretty well if you're going to resell it. So 1939S Lincoln wheat cent. Yeah, I was taken aback when I saw this. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a pretty nice woody wood grain appearance to the coin, which is an improper alloy mix. All right, and yeah, I want to promote this coin a little bit more, not this one specifically, but this particular anomaly, which is kind of a mid-error. The little bit of tin or zinc that they added to the copper didn't mix very well, so it creates this very nice tiger striped wood grain pattern to it. It could be one-sided, could be the front, the back, could be both-sided. The both-sided types are definitely worth a lot more to collectors, and folks are beginning to wake up on these. They're collecting them by date. It's offering up a really good challenge. There's going to be some of those dates that are really tough to find. This one right here, ladies and gentlemen, sold for $19. And keep in mind, just as recently as a few years ago, you had a hard time selling these for anything above $5. But now things have changed. People are very aware of these, and they're in. You know, the currency era these days, it's been phenomenal. Here's another good one. So we do have a gutter fold, but take a close look at it. You're going to see that the gutter fold only affects the overprint. The actual base print or the second print process of the front of this note is unfazed. All right, so there was a little bit of a wrinkle in the subject sheet at one point. The wrinkle was there. It like folded back in when the overprint was applied, but it was flat when the reverse and the second print, the base print, that all that black there, was applied. All right, and then it kind of like tucked in again when they did the overprint on here. We don't see these that often. Usually we either see the first or second print greatly affected by a gutter fold, which is an omission of print on that fold there. So this one sold for $100. And to me, I think that's a really cool amount of money. You can even see the kind of like the weird cutting that went on here because that fold was still in at the time. And then when you expand it out, it gives the paper in a regular shape. So yeah, I'd love to own one of these personally with the overprint gutter. Whatchamacallit? I don't know. These don't come up on the marketplace that much, which, you know, yeah, that's sad to me. A pretty cool one here. This is a 1996D Lincoln Memorial Cent, double struck. The secondary strike is about 70-75%. Uniface on one side, that side there on the obverse. But yeah, pretty cool. I mean, these are very dramatic. You know, this one, for example, sold for $99.99, which is more on the higher end of the spectrum for values of these. I know, especially with the Zinken planchets, you usually don't see $100 sales of these. But it's probably just a really nice coin in hand. Yeah, I mean, I tell you, once we have that one PCMR where we don't talk about the extra V 2023 Lincolns, that means things are done. All right, and then usually I kind of wane on these after a while. You know, as soon as the market slows down and everybody's, you know, looking at the newest hottest toy like the 2024s, which by the way comes out in about 2 months. Yeah, we don't realize it, but brand new 24s, yeah, it's coming out here real soon, ladies and gentlemen. This one's not in too bad a shape, but, you know, what's it going to grade? Like a 64 or 65? And that's why people are buying these. They're sending them off to PCGS or NGC in the hopes of getting a nice grade and then flipping them and making $100-$200 off of these. That's kind of like, you know, the money was a little bit easier and free, like 2 months ago, and now that we're here in the holidays and everybody knows about this, you know, it's not as easy to make that extra, you know, $100 bill off these, but, you know, it's worth a try. This one right here sold for $80, so that is definitely on the higher end of the scale for these. You could get them on average for about $40-50, even in this condition. There's that little V notch there next to Victor David Brenner's initials, in case you need a little bit of a refresher. 1999, very nice, uncentered, large broad strike. This thing is probably larger than nickel. That's how big it is. Very well done by the seller, creating a montage here with the text. It just works. And this presentation is beautifully made. This one right here sold for $19.99. Again, it's one of the more common dates of this error type. And another crazy, miraculous looking error here. This one, it's either going to be a fold over note or an obstruction. An obstruction means that there was probably a piece of paper that was overlapping the subject sheet on the corner or something prior to a print process. So in this case, I don't see a hard fold line on there, and you're going to see that on the reverse as well, which leads me to believe that there was some foreign something or another that was sitting on the sheet prior to the application of the second print, which is the base print of that front. Because you'll see on the reverse there, it looks normal, all right? If you didn't flip the note over and you just saw the back, you would think it's just a regular dollar bill. But you can see there on the top left corner, you don't see a hard fold. So I'm thinking it's not a fold over error. I think it's an obstruction, which means there was something over the subject sheet and then printed over that. This one right here sold for $125. 7 bids. There was a lot of curiosity on this one. So with that being said, ultimately there was quite a bit of activity here and just a really neat kind of thought-provoking type of note. And the final heartbreaker, not final heartbreaker, but the final coin, which ended up being a heartbreaker, is this 1973D Washington quarter. The seller had mentioned that it's off-center. And I'm like, no, that is far from what it's supposed to be. And then I ended up showing my wife. I'm like, hey, check this out. Do you know what it is? She told me, yeah, that's a coin that was struck on a different planchet. And I'm like, wow. Even my wife knows about this, and she's a beginner like a lot of other folks I know, and some of you too. And I'm like, wow, you're correct. This is a 73D Washington quarter that was struck on a nickel planchet. And that's why you have a lot of those design elements cut off there on the bottom. You have a lack of a rim on there. I mean, there's everything that you're seeing here, guys. This is phenomenal. Okay, so a lot of other people did know that, all right? Even if the seller was misdiagnosed it on their listing title, it turned out it was just okay. It wasn't as deep of a hole as they kind of, buried themselves in, because it did end up selling for $169.40, which is just okay. It's 17 bids altogether. But this could have gotten real bad, for sure. And this is a coin that customarily sells for about $300 to $500. So there's definitely some money left on the table. But if it was correctly listed as the right type of error, this thing would have sold for a lot more money. All right, so make sure you guys know what you have before you list it, because if you misdiagnose or misattribute something, that might end up not being too good of a thing for you. All right, so that was a lot of fun to go through that. By the way, 5 grams, which is the dead weight of a nickel planchet. So if you needed any more proof, there it is. And this particular scale weighs in whole numbers. They don't do tenths or hundreds place. So yeah, I'm glad they put that weight on there. That kind of tells the whole story here to a conclusion. But boy, that was a very interesting list to say the least. Hopefully it gave you guys some perspective and some incentive to go out there and do some hunting before good old Thanksgiving dinner makes it out onto the table. The video is for entertainment purposes only, not financial advice. All right, please collect and grade responsibly as you continue to further your education and to hunt through some of these coins. That is important. All right, that's going to go ahead and wrap things up. I wish you guys a very safe holiday weekend, great Black Friday. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the content, to today's video, and the channel if you haven't done so already. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge. It was a pleasure. You guys take care. Have a good time, and I'll see you on the next coin video. So long.